This is one of my really dear friends, Amalia Agnew, and she is our guest today. We're going to be talking about grief, faith, life, career, just she's one of the most inspirational people in my life, and so we're going to be just talking about her journey. My dog's drinking water out of my glass. Sorry. Come along with us and just we hope you enjoy this episode. What were we just talking about? We were talking about
Due dates.
Due dates.
Yeah,
So
I was 10 days late.
You were 10 days late?
I was 10 days late. I was in no rush to come out into this world.
Like, I'm chilling in the womb.
I'm chilling. I love it here.
We were thinking, was I early?
Weren't they both early? Or was she more or less?
No.
Well, we know Zoe was, but
you were like kind of right on time.
Yeah. I love being on time.
Yeah.
I usually get very stressed when I'm late.
Yeah, and that's me now. So I'm like, I don't know what I was doing back then.
I don't know what was up back then. Do you know what time of day you were born?
Yeah, I think it was like 5:50 in the morning, something like that.
Are you a morning person?
No, I worked a midnight shift. Like, I'm a night person, so I'm getting more used to the mornings, sadly. But
yeah, waking up early.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. Your work schedule, like, changing from being up every night and sleeping all day to like being up all day and sleep. Do you feel like your mood has changed at all from that? Like being up with the sun?
I mean, I just feel naturally better.
Okay.
Just because I get to see the sun more and stuff, and like be around people, which is just so interesting. I mean, yeah.
Because it was 4 years of night shift, right?
Almost 4 years. More like 3.5. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be
in the dark. But you get used to it though.
Yeah.
You just get so used to it.
Was it hard getting used to it at first?
It was at first because trying to sleep during the day, and at first I didn't have like the best like current situation. Like I didn't have like blackout curtains, so like the sun was like beaming in, and I'm like, everyone is up right now. Why am I asleep? And then being up at like 3 o'clock in the morning was just like the dead of night. No one was calling in. You're just sitting in your car, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, I can't go to sleep.
I'm on the job.
Yeah, I'm on the job. Someone could sneak up on me.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah. That is intense.
Yeah.
What did you do to keep yourself awake?
I would listen to music, call people, play on my phone. Sometimes I would like just walk around.
Yeah.
Too,
Could you drive your car around, or would you have to stay in one spot?
Oh no, I mean I would drive my car around quite a bit. I mean so the county is set up into like 8 different like portions, and we call those like sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And once you were assigned a sector, you could drive anywhere you wanted
in that sector.
So
how do you can you memorize the sectors or a map that shows
there's a map, and the more you drive around and the more you get sent to calls, you just get more used to it. You get more used to the area. So you're like, oh, I'm on this road at this block number.
Right.
And you just naturally get more used to it. And you kind of know when your sector ends and the other sector like begins.
Right.
But when I first started, I did not know that. And I'm like,
a lot to figure out.
Like, where are we?
Where am I?
Like, where am I going? And then my FT will be like, you're going the wrong way. And I'm like, I am? Yeah, we missed like our turn like 15 minutes ago. And I'm like, what? Like, you didn't say anything?
Wow. What's an OT?
Sorry, FTO. So it's your field training officer. So once you graduate from the academy, you ride around with someone, and basically they just like observe you and make sure you don't like violate laws and stuff and like people's rights. And they basically make sure
they ride in the car with you.
Mm-hmm, okay. Yep. So I'm in the driver's seat. They're in the passenger seat. They go to all the calls with you. I mean, they're with you every second, like of every moment that you're on shift. And you do that for a couple months.
Are they like telling you what to do, or are they just watching you do your job?
So you go through like different phases, and at first they do tell you what to do, because like when you first start out, you don't know what you're doing. Like I remember like one of my first calls, like it was like a noise complaint, and I'm like, so what do we do? And he's like, just tell him to turn the music down. And I'm like, okay. Little me walking up like, hey, can you turn your music down, please? And I'm like, that's all we do.
In your uniform? Like,
yeah, my uniform,
Right, but you're the cop in the uniform, so you're just like, they're like, oh.
Right, yeah. Or when you make your first traffic stop, you're like, hi, I'm Officer Agnew. you know why I pulled
Not
you
that-
over today? And like I'm looking back at my FTO like, like, am I okay? Am I doing
Can
all
they
right?
hear you? Is there like a
So
microphone?
they're typically like right next to you.
Okay.
That's so funny.
Occasionally, like as you get more like through the
Used to it.
phases, like they'll be sitting in the car, and like they're just kind of watching you and observing. But yeah, so
How many years do you have to have under your belt to be an FTO?
I think per policy, I think is supposed to be 3 years.
Yeah. So like you could
I
be an
think.
FTO.
Yes, and yeah, some people have said like, oh, they're like, oh, you should do this, and I'm like, no, I do
No.
not want.
I don't want to
Well,
babysit.
I don't want to babysit, and I actually get really bad car sick. So I'm
Oh, when you're not
like,
driving?
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no,
Not for me.
not for me. We're good. Like I don't want to babysit you. I hear the horror stories
Yeah.
and even the mistakes that I've done. I'm like, I couldn't imagine. Like you know.
Man. Well, respect to the people that do.
Oh, for
tolerate
sure. I'm
that
like,
job.
you go right ahead. Love you guys. Like,
Thanks for
have
what
fun.
you do. Yeah.
Have fun today.
That's crazy.
And then you just hear like their poor trainee over the radio because like you had to get used to that too, like talking over the radio.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what did they say? What do you say?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Turn it up.
Can you
Speak
repeat that?
louder.
turn it up, and you can hear them like shaking. You know, it's like, oh man, that was me a few years ago.
Oh my
That's
God.
so funny. It seems like police officers just look like they show up knowing what to do.
Yeah.
It's well, they taught us that in the academy. They're like, if you walk up with confidence, like people pick up on that, and they're like, even if you don't know what's going on, just still act confident, and like you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Fake
really
it till you
have
make
to
it.
like, pretty much, and you have to just kind of learn like, okay, like we got this, and like I just learned too to just be like a really good listener, like let people talk, and as they're talking, I'm like, okay, we could go this route, we could go this route, but like I'm still like listening, and like thankfully you typically have like a backup officer with you, so
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just be like, hey, can you just hold on a second, just gotta talk to my
Yeah.
backup over here, and like we'll kind of talk it through, and then like here's what we're gonna do. And sometimes then like I was on a shift too where there was a lot of like new people, so sometimes we would look at each other like, so what are we gonna do about this? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, we gotta figure it out.
We gotta look like we know what we're
Sergeant.
doing. Oh my God.
So which we try to avoid as much as possible. But
I bet that is
sometimes-
hard because everybody looks at police like,
Oh yeah.
oh, they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I'm in the
they-
wrong. Like and
Yes.
so you have to be like so sharp to not.
You have to be because they expect an answer.
Yeah.
They want a solution.
Man.
So yeah. So
So they
there's
can get away on their way.
well, yeah, and they're like, this happened, like, so you need to fix it. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
Right, right.
There's a process,
Right.
sadly. So,
Right.
and then sometimes you get the occasion where you're like, actually, this is a civil issue. Have a great day. And then you get to walk away. So,
Wow.
Can't
but-
help you. This is a civil issue.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Sorry.
That's so funny.
Wow.
Man.
Well, what got you into being a cop? I feel like that's such like a, I don't know, like you got none of us. I think you're the first person I met that was like, I want to be a cop. I'm sure you know many people that felt that way too.
yeah.
But I don't hear many stories of like, I want to be a cop. I hear a lot of like, I want to be in a band. I want to build houses. I want to be a teacher. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like my grandfather was a cop, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like hearing people's passions for that kind of job, which entails so much that you just don't even think about. I mean, you've told me like so many stories of things that I would just, as a
Yeah.
citizen or whatever, just like goes right over my head. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this goes on at night? I don't know. Like what got you into that or inspired you?
It was a journey for sure. So when I was 12,
Uh-huh.
I was convinced that I had to have my whole life figured out. And I was like, all right, we are going to figure out what we're going to do. Like as a career, we're going to pick out our colleges. Everything's going to be laid out. So little me grabbed the family computer and literally just looked up like careers or something like along those lines, like jobs you can get like after college.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking around, and one of the jobs that stood out to me was like FBI special agent.
Yeah.
And till this day, I fully don't even quite know what they do. But like, that just stuck out to me. I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. Like a special agent, like spy stuff, detective work.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Yeah.
And I started doing researching, and I was like researching about like their qualifications and like what their academy looked like. And one of the things that they wanted to see on your resume was that you had prior law enforcement experience or military. And I knew at that moment, I was like, I'm not joining the military.
Yeah.
That just, I don't think so. And even the idea of law enforcement, I was like, that's not something I really want to do. Like being a cop, like I don't know about this. But I was like, we'll just see what happens. So since I was 12, and I kept like doing research and, around the criminal justice field in general. And I kind of just started to feel like a natural pull like to that area. And I was like, okay, I think this is an area I like. It's like kind of generic in a way, but it's just so broad. There's just so many ways you can go. So I'll go down that route. Started going to PVC when I was 17, did like the dual enrollment.
Right.
And I started taking like criminal justice classes.
Right.
And one of those classes was like, crime scene investigations. And I instantly was like drawn into that.
Really?
I was like forensics, like collecting and just DNA, like I don't know.
Solving puzzles and like putting it all together.
I was like, this
excites you.
Yeah. I was like, this sounds cool. And a lot of it, was talking about, their role in law enforcement. And I was like, okay, so maybe we can keep doing this. And then there was a career fair at PVCC, and I knew I wanted to get an internship, but my goal was to go through state. And sure enough, there was a state trooper there, and he was like, oh yeah, fill out this form, and he's like, maybe you can intern with us. And I'm like, great. And I'm like,
easy peasy.
Yeah. And so I was like walking down the hallway, just looking at a couple others, and I saw Albemarle County. And at first I was like, I don't want to go with the county. I want to go with state because, state trooper, they wear the cool hats. I'm like, they seem put together. There's just so many like opportunities through that area.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to go with state. But the county officers kind of reeled me in. They just happened to see me like, oh, hey, you want to like come intern with us? And I'm like, I'll think about it. Because I didn't want to be like rude.
Right.
Fill it out with their form. And anyway, I ended up going with the county because with the state, the process for the internship was taking forever. And they're like, you might have to intern in the fall and you'll have to commute. And I'm like,
it just wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
So I went with the county.
Nice.
And I interned with the county. And yeah, at that point, I think I was either 17 or 18 when I interned with them for the summer. And I did ride-alongs, community events with them, and just kind of saw the day-to-day like police work.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it instantly.
Really?
And I'm like, I think this is something I want to do.
Wow. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Because you said a minute ago that when you were 12, you felt like you had to have your whole life figured out.
Yep.
I feel like you're the oldest. I'm the oldest. My mom's also the oldest. I don't know. I relate to that in a really big way. Like the oldest of a family feeling like they have to have their whole life figured out because there's a lot depending on them. They're the guinea pig, whatever. But from your story, what was like as the oldest wanting to have your whole life figured out, where do you feel like that came from in your childhood? I know you grew up in a church.
Yep.
And you have like a pretty big family, but like what was that environment like for you that, I don't know, made you now like the very strong person that you are, and like having that drive to want to have everything figured out?
It definitely came from my mom. So I'm the oldest of 7. There's 4 of us girls, 3 of us boys. And, ever since I was little, as the oldest, I think my mom always looked up to me, and I was basically like her right hand. Like I was always there helping out with the kids, with housework. Like I was the reliable one. I was the one that she could count on, you know, the one that's going to get out of bed and just
pack
everything
the kids'
together.
lunches. I remember you telling me that.
I would, make kids breakfast and lunch. I would get, especially as I got older and I had more younger siblings, I would get them out of bed, wash their face, get them dressed, basically make sure that they were completely ready for the day.
Wow.
And then I would hand them off to my mom and be like, all right, they're ready for school,
Wow.
I would bathe them and stuff. So I was very involved, in their life, which was, overall a blessing and stuff to be a part of that. But I think.
But as a kid, that's
as a kid, it was
kind
a lot
of being a mom. You're basically a
mom. A lot of my siblings have said you were our second mom, and they tell people that they're like, oh yeah, she was a mom to us.
Wow.
And, so I think growing up in that environment, I just naturally was like, oh yes, I'm the reliable one. I had to have everything figured out.
Right.
Because like, all my other younger siblings like had needs, and they would also not necessarily get into like, big trouble or anything, but some of them were just more like troublemakers.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like, yeah, I could do like no wrong whatsoever. And I felt like if I did do something wrong, because naturally we're humans, we're
Right.
children, I felt like I was always like the biggest disappointment to my mom
Wow.
by the way she like addressed it.
Wow.
And I was just like, I feel like I, in a way, kind of have to like earn her like respect and love back. And then I was like, I can never screw up again. Like I can't do that again. I need to get my act together. Like
Right.
how dare I?
It was like part of your identity to be perfect.
Yes, for sure. And to not really, I feel like, show like emotion either, because I felt like she never really did. And so I think I kind of also took that on. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I cannot, show any emotion. Like I can't be sad. Like I can't be like too angry, because then like it would stress my mom out, because she'd
Right.
be like, why are you like this? Like what's going on? Like I need you, I need you
Yeah.
to take care of like this and that. So
Wow.
yeah, so no, it definitely came from my mom, like this idea of like, yeah, I need everything to be laid out perfectly.
Right.
And
And also
I
her
have to
relying
be
on you so much.
perfect. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot. I mean, I feel like that's a lot to carry as I don't know, as a kid and the oldest, and living, and like what was your relationship with your dad through all of that? Was it
I mean, overall it was good. He worked long hours. I mean, he was always available on the weekend. I think in a way we kind of clung to each other, because I think, I mean, growing up, him and my mom never really had like a great relationship. So I think he sometimes kind of clung to me as kind of like an emotional support. And I kind of did with him as well, because I didn't get that from my mom.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I can go to my dad
Right.
about this.
It's two very different relationships with your parents.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
But then as I got older, though, I did start to kind of resent my dad, because I'm like, I feel like you could be standing up, for me more, or like, have my back. But I think he was kind of worried and scared about my mom and like her reaction. So, he was just kind of like, you just need to listen to her and just
Wow.
do all these things. And I'm like, thanks for being there.
Wow.
Appreciate it.
Wow.
So
That's
so overall good,
but there's definitely some bumps in the road that caused a lot of like, probably a lot of thought as to, I don't know, like moving out and your life choices and getting married and now, I mean, being pregnant and now getting ready to raise your own kid. I'm sure there's a lot in your own childhood that you've probably like processed and probably still processing.
I was gonna say still processing, honestly.
Yeah, still processing.
Yeah.
We really like to talk about like grief and that process. Speaking of processes, do you feel like within that kind of environment as a kid, is there anything that you have grieved with your parents and maybe their relationship, or even just the relationship with your siblings? Just any type of grief that you've gone through that maybe has made you stronger, or that you're still going through.
Growing up in that environment, and just seeing the way my parents have, interacted with each other, I definitely grieved that aspect.
Yeah.
Because as far as back as I can remember, I always questioned, like, did they actually love each other? Which,
because they're
yes,
separated.
they're officially divorced. I mean, my mom is either up in Canada, Dominican Republic, or she's here. So I mean, she's not really a part of my life anymore, and really hasn't been for
a long time.
For a while, you know. So I definitely, grieved that as well. And so I grieved the loss basically of a mother, because I mean, she's still physically here, but emotionally, there is no connection.
Wow.
There at all. I mean, I just saw her for the first time, for my gender reveal.
Right.
And before that, it was a few months, and and then before that, it was like a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think. So I mean, it's so
there's a lot of grief in
there's a lot of grief in that. And and there's the grief too because of my parents' separation. Like I don't see my two youngest siblings like rarely.
Ever, really.
Like so And I never know when they're really going to come around. I don't know when I'm going to see them.
Right.
Because sometimes my dad will text me and he's like, oh, they're going to be here this weekend. And I'm like,
Dad, I got
I
plans.
already made plans. And I'm like, it's just like the only weekend now I get to like see my siblings,
Yeah.
and I see the effect too that the separation has caused like all my siblings and just the
Right.
struggles that they have. And so that grieves me as well, because I'm like, oh my goodness, like my siblings are struggling, and it makes my heart so sad.
And I'm sure it's an instinct for you to want to be there for them
Oh,
and like
absolutely.
fix everything for them.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if I could just snap my fingers and just make everything perfect again, like I would.
Right.
Because like seeing, my siblings like suffer. Like I think about one of my brothers. He's like the fifth in line, and he lives at the house now, like all by himself. And I'm like, could never imagine that, because like I grew up with a bunch of siblings.
Yeah.
And him, for like a good part of his childhood, had all his siblings there, and then like one day they're just like all gone. They're all gone. So yeah, and yeah, just questioning kind of like what was real, in my childhood. I think, just looking back in the past and just, reflecting back on like, how my parents responded to each other. And like, it makes me question like what actually is love,
Right.
like what is like
Wow.
unconditional, like natural love,
Right.
which then has really affected my relationship with even God, because, for the longest time I looked to them as kind of like, not like idols or anything, but I just like really
looked up to your
respected them. Yeah, I looked up to my
parents.
parents, and like seeing their relationship fall apart and them doing things that I'm like, this doesn't seem very godly, I'm just like,
because you've told me that like your family on the outside really tried to portray like a picture perfect Christian family.
Yes.
And behind closed doors, it wasn't that way
not that,
at
no.
all.
Like we would walk into church. I mean, we were the family that would, arrive early. We had like, matching dresses. The boys had the matching ties that matched our dresses. I mean, like we
Wow.
were always just looking just perfect.
Mm.
And that's the thing, is like, we really just put on this show about like, yes, we are such a put together family, but we weren't. And sadly, as I got older, I realized that. And so then like it also messed with my mind about like Christians in general, because
Totally.
I'm like, well, my parents claim to be Christians and they portrayed this to other people, and other people believed it, but then they're
it's not
doing
real.
all, it's not real. So I'm like,
Maybe this whole thing isn't real.
Yeah, I was like, is Christianity then even real? Because then
Right.
there's also a bunch of struggles in the church about, perfection, being perfect, and like, going by like these rules that you had to follow. It was kind of, they didn't like outright like preach this, but there's like kind of like an underlying tone where you kind of had to like work, like low key, like work for your salvation. And they didn't really preach about like unconditional love.
Your church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you gotta hear about unconditional love.
you
Like,
do.
You gotta hear.
And then my parents didn't like
preach that in the home.
preach that in the home either. So when I started, really diving in about trying to know God, and even now I still struggle. I'm like, what is unconditional love?
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
How have you found anything like in that journey of what unconditional love is? Because I know that there was a time where you kind of fell away from God. Like,
oh yeah,
you kind of
did.
What was that period of like? So like you
Mm-hmm.
grew up in this home.
Yeah.
You were a picture perfect Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you start kind of like, maybe what were some things in your life that you started to do or implement or think that like, oh, Christians are a bunch of hypocrites?
Yeah, and that started when I was about like age 12.
Okay.
There was an incident that did happen with my parents where they almost separated at that point. And that instantly turned me off. Like, because like you said, like, we look up to our parents. They're our role models.
Yeah.
And to see their life fall apart, their Christian life fall apart. And then also, you're kind of reaching that stage in life too where you're starting to be like more aware.
Yeah,
and start to
and think about things on your own.
Yeah, and like just seeing what the church was all about. I'm just like, that kind of started my downfall. I was like, I don't think I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Like, this all seems fake to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I want anything to do with it. And it kind of kept growing as I became like a teenager. And then especially once I started to go to college and hearing like other views, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, maybe I don't really want to be a part of this. And I would like call myself a Christian, but I didn't really mean it because I
Mhm.
wasn't really living it out, you know? Um, and so yeah, it was when I went to VCU. Um, I can't remember what requirement it was. I think it was like like you had to take like a humanity class or something like
Mhm.
that. But one of the classes was like religion.
Mhm.
And I was able to learn about basically like different like religions like about the world and really dive into that. Well, I took that class intentionally
Yeah.
because I was like, well,
I want to learn my other options.
yeah, I want to learn about my other options here. I want to learn about other religions that maybe I could like go to. And I even had a conversation with my mom before we stopped talking. And I even told her, I was like, I don't think I'm a Christian.
Mm.
I was like, I really don't think that. I'm like, I'm trying really hard, but I'm like, I just don't think I believe it. And I was like, I think I'm done.
Wow, what'd she say?
um,
Was it like,
she surprisingly, I mean, you could tell she was like, she's like, I still believe this. I still think it's true. And she's like, I think deep down you still know that, but she's like, you gotta do what you gotta do,
hmm.
that kind of thing. Um, and then around that time period too, I refer to myself as agnostic.
Mm.
Like, I believe in God, but I didn't really want anything to do with
anything
it.
else?
Yeah, to do with it. Um, yeah, because I think I was just so scarred by, yeah, how my parents acted, just Christians in general, and I'm just like, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
In that humanities
So
class, did you like find something that you wanted, or were you still?
I was still kind of looking and searching. I think I kind of leaned more
Well, you
towards
said
like,
agnostic. You
yeah, I was
kind of.
like agnostic, and then like, but also I really enjoy like meditating.
Mm.
So like, like the Buddhist, like, kind of realm and stuff, because I think I also really like that aspect because it was always like, working like on your inner self
Mm.
and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
working on
you're like, I have a
yourself.
lot to
And
heal from. I'm
yeah,
gonna.
so I'm like, this is good. So yeah, I did like a lot of meditation. I even got like a book like from the library about like different like meditation practices,
Hmm.
and was getting really involved in that. And yeah, I was basically doing anything that I could to not trust God
Mm.
and to just be like,
I don't need you.
I don't need you. I don't need you, which was like extremely hard for Liam because I was,
Mm.
married at that time. And there was kind of a part of me too that was kind of like still kind of expressing like, oh yeah, like I kind of believe, and I would still go to church and stuff, but like deep down inside in the
In
heart
your
though, I
heart,
was like
you were blocking
I was
God.
blocking. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore.
Wow. Wow.
It's old school.
So you and
So,
Liam got married
hmm
while all of this was still going on.
yeah, and like when we got married, I wasn't so closed off. Like I wasn't very open about it. It
Mhm.
wasn't until kind of like after we were married, I think maybe like about a year in.
Because
I was
didn't he kind
very
of help you,
like,
like, kind of reopen your heart to it?
I was definitely. I mean, Liam. I mean, he has been so patient and gracious towards
Yeah.
me, and I mean, he's the reason why I understand like unconditional
I was
love
gonna say,
these
like,
days.
Liam
I
has
mean,
gotta be the person,
he is the
somebody.
person, and
Yeah.
like, and it took me so long to like see that and understand that because it was like a virus to me. I'm like, I
Mm.
don't understand this, like this unconditional love, because like I didn't grow up with that. I didn't understand like the realm of it, and so for Liam to, I mean, go through so much with me, yeah, between like, my faith and like, yeah, the whole, becoming a police officer. I mean, I basically, went behind his back, with that area.
You went behind Liam's back with the
Yeah.
whole police thing.
hmm
Tell us more about that
Yeah. So,
if you want to.
yeah, so the very beginning, yeah, because when I
You knew you wanted to
interned,
be a police.
yes, and when I interned with the county, yeah, we were still dating at that time, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do. I was like, I think I want to be a police officer. I think this is my calling, feeling the passion, and like he would ask me, he's like, but why? And I'm like, I don't really have a great answer. I'm like, I just feel like this is the right thing to do,
Yeah, yeah.
and like I'm like, this is it. This is my calling. And he didn't understand it, which is understandable. I mean, who wants their wife to like be a police officer? I was 18. So I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, how old were
So
you guys when you got married?
I was
You were 9.
Yeah, I was
19?
19. Yep, I was 19. He was 20. So yeah, so we
Right.
were still like super young and just
And you
yeah,
guys are talking about getting married,
yeah.
and
I
you're
mean,
like, I want to be a police officer, and he's
yeah,
like, what? This is not what I imagined,
yeah,
probably.
no, definitely not. And there was a point too. He was like, I don't know. He's like, if I want to marry someone, he wants to be a police
Mm.
officer, and I'm like, I understand that. And I was like, well, still got time to think about it. So I'm like, you know what? We'll just put that dream like kind of behind us.
Mm.
I was like, it might not happen. Well, I went to college and it was still on my heart. And I had professors who were police officers, and the way they talked about it, I was just like, man, see the passion in their eyes. This is it. This is my calling. And Liam was still like, no, absolutely not. He's like, I really do not want you to do this. Like, I
Wow.
just don't want you to. And I'm like, okay, fine, I get it. So I was looking at other jobs, especially in the crime scene world. But a lot of the jobs, they were like, they wanted you to like be a police officer,
They
I guess.
they had requirements.
Yeah, they have requirements. And I'm like, and I was just having such a hard time
Yeah.
at finding jobs. And I was just like, I can't remember if it popped up or somehow I learned that Albemarle County was hiring for police officers. And I'm like, and I was like, looked into it. And I actually knew the sergeant who
Mm.
was like, recruiting and doing the hiring process because I worked with him while I was interning.
Mm.
So I actually like called him and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but like I interned like, underneath you. And he's like, oh, I remember you. He's like, you gonna apply? And I was like, well, when's your next academy? And he's like, well, you're behind in the process, but he's like, I will get you in though.
Oh my
He's like,
gosh.
if you want in, he's like, I'm gonna get you in.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, okay. He's like, I'm gonna send you the form. He's like, fill it out, and someone will reach out to you, for next steps. And I'm like, okay. Fill out the form. Liam still doesn't know.
Oh my gosh.
Someone else calls me and they're like, hey, yeah, you're behind the process, so we're gonna have to do like your 3-panel interview. You're gonna have to do the fitness test and the written test all in one day. He's like, I know it's a lot, but he's like, you're gonna have to do it if you want to potentially continue. And I'm like, okay, like when? He's like, what about like in 2 days? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I could do that. And I'm like, get off the phone, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to tell Liam about this. And I'm like dreading this conversation.
Oh man.
And poor Liam was like in the shower when I told him. Such bad timing.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, hey, I have an interview tomorrow. And he's like, really? He's like, with who? And I'm like, Albemarle County Police Department. And he just like pokes his head out and he's like, yeah, we'll talk about this later. Like just closes the curtain. And like, yeah, Liam still like addressed it with just so much grace and love. And was just like,
Liam is amazing.
I just wish you would have just, catch me in the loop about this. And I'm like, I should have. And I'm so sorry. I'll let you know how it goes tomorrow. And
so much forgiveness.
so
I
much
bet.
forgiveness there. I cannot believe this man. Like, he truly is a gift from God. Like,
Wow.
Well, it's not like you said, I'm going to go apply to be a, store clerk, or I don't know,
Right.
just like something,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not a small job.
No, it's not. It's huge.
It's huge.
It's so huge. And yet, yeah, he was so gracious and loving about it.
But also,
Yeah.
like, he realized that you were really serious and that it's something that brings you so much joy. I
Yeah.
feel like now, observing you guys on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
he knows and he cares about your job so much.
Yes.
And he cares that you get to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see, like, so much growth in him as well.
Mhm.
Like, from you telling me that he was like, no way.
Yeah.
To being like, this is what makes my wife
Mhm.
happy.
Yes.
And I care about it so much. I
Mhm.
just think that's so awesome.
Yeah, no. So to see that growth has been amazing. Like, us being able to work through it, and even now, like with the baby coming, we're trying to decide like, oh,
Yeah.
are we, gonna put our baby in daycare? Or am I gonna stay home with it? And for him just to be like, if you want to go back to work, you get to go back to work. Like, just go ahead. Like, if that's something you want to do, keep working. Like, this is your career. This is your dream. Go for it.
Wow.
And then for him to also be like, if you want to stay home, stay home. We'll make it
Mm.
work. So yeah, so for him to be just so open-minded and loving towards it has just made this journey like so much easier.
Yeah. You were
So-
saying that Liam was like such a big part in you kind of recognizing and opening yourself up to that unconditional
Mhm.
love that God provides. What was that process? Like, was it a long process, or was it a moment where you were like, you know what? I am a Christian and I do
Mhm.
believe in God again, or I always have, or
Yeah. It's
what was that
it's
like?
been a process, honestly. There was like one moment, like yeah, I just randomly just started reading the Bible,
Mm,
and I sadly just can't remember the verse because like I just got remember just getting just like so emotional,
yeah,
and it was just something like along the lines like of God's love. I wish I could remember the verse,
yeah.
but I just remember just finally just it sinking in one day and just being like, what am I doing?
Mm,
Like yeah, I do believe in God. I know who God is. And for me to not want to trust him and have him in my life in a way is kind of stupid,
mm,
and just I think it was because for so long I was like, I want to be in full control of my life.
yeah,
Like I want to control every single aspect because I think once again, like I saw my my family's experience, my parents, and I think I just felt like I wasn't in control of anything during my childhood
yeah.
and even into like kind of my early like adult years. And I was just like, I want that
The
control.
only thing I can
Is
control is what religion or what I
mm-hmm.
associate myself with or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah. And so I wanted to cling on to that. I wanted to make the decisions.
Yeah,
And yeah, so it's just been overall just like a process of just like letting go.
peeling back the
Like,
layers.
yeah, peeling back the layers, just giving a little bit. And God, once again, has been so gracious and so patient with me.
Mm.
I feel like, yeah, as time goes on, He's just like, how about you just give this part of your life to me? And
Oh,
sometimes I'll be
wow.
like, okay, fine, go ahead. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. But yeah, so no, it's been a process.
Yeah. Was there like
So,
a moment in your childhood where you like gave your life to Christ, or
yep,
do
I
you
did
remember
when
that
I
moment?
was. I don't remember the moment. I was super young.
Okay.
When I made a confession of faith, got baptized.
Okay.
And I think when I was like around 10, I kind of went through a period where I was like, I don't know if I'm saved or not. So I kind of like
Mm.
made another profession.
Mm.
But yeah, when I was really little though, and when I was little, it was interesting. Was just super on fire for God. Like,
Really?
yeah, I was like the little kid, like in the playground area that would go up to kids, play with them, and at the very end be like, "Hey, do you know Jesus? Like, you don't know about Jesus? Let me tell you about Jesus." And some kids are like, "I don't want to talk about this," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you do. You want to know? You want to know?"
This is like when you were like 5 or 7.
Yeah, like 5, and up until maybe I was like about like 10, like I was like just super like,
Do you know about Jesus?
yeah, do you know about Jesus? I would like hand out tracts like in grocery stores and be like, here you go, you should read this. Have a great day. Like I was outgoing in
That
that
is so
way,
funny.
and I
I
was
love that.
actually convinced too back then. I was like, I think God wants me to be a missionary. I'm
Mm.
like, I don't know where, but I feel a calling to the mission field. And my parents were like, I don't know about this. Like, and people would be like, I don't know about this, but I was like, no, this is real. I can feel it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Can you
That's
do that
so-
in your job now?
yeah.
I don't know if that's probably against policy.
I mean, thankfully, a lot of my coworkers like are Christians.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are. So that's been kind of cool, and I actually have been able to be a witness to like a couple of them, um, which has been like a slow process and stuff. Like sometimes they'll just ask me questions, and sometimes I have the answers. Like sometimes not, but yeah.
You mean like
So.
in the field, like you're on a call and
Oh
somebody
no,
has
sadly not on a call. Just
Right.
like me and my coworkers, just like
Oh.
chilling and like chatting
Right.
and stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah,
still amazing too, just because helping your coworkers.
yeah,
I mean, just talking about Christ with your coworkers is so amazing.
yeah.
It is. But
So
you can't be like on the thing and be like, and now that we're done with this, do you know about Jesus?
Right, yeah, I
Right.
don't think that would be.
Right, I know
Yeah.
it's like cops and Jesus. Wait a minute.
Wait,
it's like,
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is hard because you see people grieving and stuff, and there
You
have
just want to
been
be like, can I
times.
pray for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I just want to be like, oh my goodness, like let's just all huddle around here for a second, like
Yeah.
have a moment. So,
I'm sure that is
but
hard.
yeah,
Like having that cop, I don't know, like the
demeanor,
cop side
like,
and the
yeah.
cop demeanor and then the Amalia demeanor.
Yeah,
Switching between the two,
for sure.
that is a skill.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that took a long time to kind of evolve? Or was it more of just that like confidence?
I think it was just more like the confidence, and I think I really built that up during the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Just through the scenarios we would go through, I think I just really started to establish like this is what I need to act like when I go on a call, and I need to compose myself and
Mm-hmm.
like be the cop. But
Yeah.
sometimes you do let your guard down. Like I've had like very emotional like conversations like with people before, especially like when a loved one has passed, because like you just can't overlook that.
No. Yeah.
I
You're
mean, and
human.
people, yeah, I'm a human, and like, people need to see the human side
Yes.
of police officers. And when you show that human side, I mean, you can just help people's like walls just like break down,
Wow.
and they're kind of relieved, and you're able to establish like, more
Connection.
yeah, more of a connection, which is what people need like during that time. They don't need you to just be like, yeah, your family member died here, sorry. Like,
This is what we're gonna do.
like, yeah,
This
that's
is
what
the
we're gonna do. Like,
process.
no, like, yeah, you need to be there for them. And so sometimes the walls will like come down then, and I'm like more just chill, and I've
Mm-hmm.
teared up on calls before because
Yeah.
I'm like, this is awful.
This is wow, so real and
Yeah.
intense and really cool. I was curious, like, with your back to kind of your childhood and
Mhm.
that whole process and experience. Now that you are like about to become a mom, or even
Mhm.
before you got pregnant, was there any type of forgiveness that you experienced with your family, or is that something that you're like still working through? And if so,
Mhm.
I don't know, advice you can give to people with, forgiving your parents, or forgiving
Yeah.
life circumstances, or
Mhm.
stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, once again, it's kind of a process. But I will say that, with my mommy, for the longest time, I was so angry and bitter towards her, because I'm like, not only were you, like, she basically, I mean, she wasn't very, like, emotionally there for me, like, ever. And so, and I really was angry about that, because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm your daughter. And there were times in my childhood I was like, I needed you to be there.
Right.
And even like in my early adulthood, I'm like, I needed you to be there emotionally for me. And yeah, and there was just so many things that happened, um, that I'm just like, yeah, it was really hard to let go, because I'm like, you did X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, how could I ever forgive you for that? But then it occurred to me, and honestly, it wasn't that long ago. It was kind of, yeah, while this little guy was still, just barely cooking. And I'm just like, I could, keep, being bitter and angry towards her. But I'm like, what good is that going to do me?
Right.
I'm like, she's living her life. I'm living my life now. And I'm like, the only thing I want to show her now is like love and grace, just like, what God did to me.
Right.
Just like what Liam has showed me, what other people have shown me. And I'm
Wow.
like, why would I not do the same? Because in a lot of that came from because I was going back and forth about, telling her about the baby, about inviting her to things. And yeah, for the longest time, I was like, absolutely not. Like, she will not be involved, like, in any aspect, because I don't want her to be. I'm like, she's no good, I mean, like, I've never heard her, like, apologize to me. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm probably never going to get that apology. And it's something that I've just had to kind of accept and
let go of that
and
desire
just,
for
yeah.
a want of an apology.
Yeah, and just wanting that. And like I said, I mean, God has shown me so much love and grace. So why would I not extend the same to her?
Right.
I have no right, holding that against her. Like, there still needs to be like boundaries, just because of, of what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
But
forgiveness and grace
forgiveness and
is,
grace is,
like you've said so many times just now, like God shows us that every day. He's shown that to us himself and through so many people. Why wouldn't we do that and extend that to people who have wronged us?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, all over the New Testament, it shows Jesus doing that, and Jesus telling us to do that. Doesn't make it easy,
right,
at all.
No, it's not. And like, it took me, years. I mean, it was literally just like a few months ago where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done
Playing
being
it down.
so angry and bitter towards her, because yeah, it's doing me more harm than good, and so I'm just like, I'm done. And that's why, I finally told her about the baby. It was just like a text, like it wasn't like a warm, friendly call, but I texted her, let her know, invited her. And when she came to my gender reveal, I mean, you could tell, I mean, she was just so grateful
Mm.
to be there. And she just kept thanking me.
Mm.
And you could tell it meant a lot to her. And I think, and I think it did, because I don't think a lot of people have shown her unconditional love
Mm.
or even grace. And yeah, she doesn't deserve it, but I also don't deserve it either.
Mm.
So yeah.
Wow.
So
That
it's a
is such,
process.
yeah,
and
that is such a big thing to be able to say.
yeah.
Like, I don't deserve this grace either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just think so many people hold that bitterness for
Mhm.
so long because
Yeah.
they think it's justifying
Yeah.
the situation.
And that's what I could think. I was like, I am justified to be angry
Yeah.
towards her. And I, go to therapy, and I'm like, these are my reasons for being so angry at my mother. And I'm like, I think this is valid.
Mm.
But, and yeah, and it may be valid,
But
but
it's not changing anything.
yeah, it's not going to change anything. I mean, she knows how I feel. And yeah, more than anything, I would love an apology.
Mm.
But yeah, I've accepted that, yeah, probably not going to get it. And you know what?
Right.
It's okay.
Mm.
It's okay.
Wow.
So,
Wow. In that sense, with you about to become a mom,
mhm.
are there things that you maybe recognize that you, I guess, thinking about being a parent, I feel like that's such a mind and a life shift where it's just like, okay, it's just me and my husband,
Mhm.
and now we're going to become parents.
Yeah.
What are things that maybe you acknowledge that your parents did well, and things that they didn't do well, and ways that you
Mhm.
want to maybe share the gospel with your child and like
Mhm.
raise them in that way? Because I mean, this is just a guess, but maybe there's some nervousness to raise your kid as a Christian because of what
Mhm.
you experienced.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, even now, like, I've thought about, like, okay, like, how am I going to teach, my baby boy, like, about, like, God's love and, like, what he's done for us? Because
Yeah.
I think I grew up in a very kind of, like, shallow concept of Christianity
Mm-hmm.
and not very, like, much in depth. Like, I know, like, all the basic stories, like Noah's Ark,
Right.
Jonah and the whale,
Right.
Jesus died on the cross. But, to actually really dive deep into the scriptures, I mean, that I didn't really experience that growing up, from the church or like from my family. And so that's something, I would love to do, with my son.
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to wait till like he kind of gets to a certain age too,
Right.
to where you can comprehend that. But I think it's like the aspect of like unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to like fully understand that and grasp that. And I don't want him to struggle like I did
Mm.
for so long and like trying to wrap my head around it,
Mhm.
And like, yeah, and I do appreciate, my parents. I mean, both were hardworking. I mean,
Mm.
my mom homeschooled all seven of us kids at one point. I mean,
That's a hard job.
It's a hard job. It's a pretty big deal. And she kept that house like spotless.
Really?
She did. She was, once again, a perfectionist. So, of course, but I mean, she was a hard worker. And so it was my dad. And, I think at one point, they did love God. And, my mom also would hand out tracts and like, try to witness to
Minister to
people.
people.
Yeah, my dad did the same thing. So I mean, I I'm hoping that, I can also just spread like the hardworking values to my
Hardworking.
son,
Yeah.
like my parents did.
Yeah.
So
That's such an important value, and
mhm.
especially in today's world where everything's like so like instant gratification.
Yeah.
I feel like the hardworking mindset is
Mhm.
slowly dwindling
Yeah.
because you can like get everything so easily.
Mhm.
That's beautiful that you can like recognize that in your
Yeah.
family.
What do you feel like, or how have you healed your relationship with the church? Because I know you said like you had like
Yeah.
a kind of disruption with your relationship with God
Mhm.
and His people, basically,
Yeah.
because you saw this dissonance between
Mhm.
what was on the outside and what
Yeah.
people were going through on the inside. Has that changed?
So I think Liam's family played like a big role in that, like, like the true like Agnew family and also like their like family groups of people.
Yeah.
I feel like they are just all so down to earth. They all, I feel like, recognize each other's like faults and like they just will like bring up like, oh yeah, like I struggle in this area, but here's how like I've overcome it. And they're constantly like in their Bible and like doing community groups and just I feel like what they have of Christianity is like so real.
Mm.
And seeing that and being around that, inspired me to like,
Be a better version of
yeah,
yourself.
be a better, yeah. And just warming up to Christians, and even honestly, like being like in girl group,
Yeah.
like I see, the love that like all you ladies have, for each other, and just, I feel like all of us are just so open
Mm.
about like what like our struggles are. And I feel like growing up, like nobody would have said that.
Mm.
They, once again, it was
Keep it
kind
to
of like that. Yeah,
yourself.
keep it to yourself. It was like we have to reach this level of perfectionism,
Mm.
and that's it. But like seeing more people being open and just not as hypocritical, I'm just like that's like what I needed to see.
Mm.
I needed to see like, yeah, raw human nature. And so yeah, so I think, yeah, being around Liam's family, and yeah, their Christian group of friends, going to, Charlottesville Community Church, and yeah, being part of girl group, I think has definitely warmed me up, and yeah, healed me basically
Mm.
to want to be part of like a Christian like community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Have it community like I mean, a simple answer to that, a simple kind of overview of that is just healthy community.
yeah.
Like so many people yearn for that real human connection, and
Yep.
so many churches and especially Christians
Mhm.
put on this show when Jesus calls us to be the most real,
Mhm.
the most accepting, the most forgiving,
Yep.
and the most in depth
Mhm.
with people and getting on their level. And I think that's just so beautiful that you received that, because a lot of people could witness that and they're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, maybe they're just being fake. Like,
Right.
this is a good thing and they
Yeah.
like seem like they are doing well, but it
Mhm.
might just be super fake.
And I was like that at first. I was very hesitant.
Really?
Because I'm like, they're probably going to go downhill.
Mm.
Like, and I would think that about the Agnew family, because,
Mm.
they kind of seem like still kind of like a really, not like a perfect Christian family, but, just still like they had their act together.
Mhm.
And I'm just
And they're
like,
hardworking. They got their act together.
I'm like, something's going to go downhill, and like, I didn't want to, like, I wasn't wishing that or anything, but it's just kind of like this mindset that I had, because I'm
This
like,
expectation.
yeah, because I'm like, obviously
That's what happened to you?
yeah, that's what happened to me. I know that happened to other families. So I'm like, it's bound to happen.
Mm.
And it hasn't. And it's because they know their faults, and they know like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do to work on this. And to see that they're all so close to God, and just so open about their faith is, yeah, truly inspiring, and just, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a complete difference, I feel like, when Greg and I were just talking about this morning, that not having God in your life as when we were kids, and now having God in our life, like, we know that every decision that we approach, and that in watching Sophia and Gareth, like, approach it from seeking God first. And like, being a Christian, you can hear all the text, and you can
Hear all the stories.
say all the
Yeah.
things, and you can do all the rituals, and go to all the groups. But unless you're like applying it and submitting to the instruction and to each other within the family, like, as husband and wife, that submission obviously first, but then also like being able to give your kids the autonomy to be able to speak back and have like conversation, and like having that brotherly love in the home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to apply it.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like, what makes it real and different,
Yeah.
rather than
Just reading.
just going through the motions
Mm-hmm.
to do the thing because it's what your family did, or what it's the thing
What
to
the church
do,
is doing.
or the whatever. But it's really applying all those virtues and ways, and that is the hardest part. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else is, you can just figure it out.
Right.
But submission, I mean, you can figure out submission too, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where it ends.
Yeah.
Submission and surrender.
And
Mhm.
surrender, yeah,
Yep.
to what he is
Yeah.
asking you to do. You know, I mean, he always asks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But yeah, I think that I feel like that is that's where it becomes different, is that realness.
Yeah.
When you can see people actually, like, they might have struggles, but they're pressing into, like, what is the best foot forward.
Yeah.
Because I am forgiven, but it's also my job to not take that lightly and to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
Without performance.
Right, without
Mhm.
performance.
Right. Yeah.
Being
And
real
without-
about it.
Without works, right?
Yeah.
Without
It's
doing it because then I'll earn the better place.
No, yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
we are human beings, not human doings.
That's
Right.
right.
Right. Just thinking about submission, or it's not submission, surrender. You're about to have a baby boy,
Yes.
and like something you and Liam have been working towards, but
Yeah.
there's also another part to the story that
Yeah.
you've gone through that is very very real, and a lot of people go through, don't really talk about, or they talk about really lightly. I don't know. And just I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts and feelings, especially along with your faith,
Yeah.
to, I don't know, dive into, and you can talk about as much as you want. But
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. The whole children thing is another process I had to work through, because back when I was like 12, the thought of like having a family crossed my mind, but I wasn't very like, oh yeah, I want a family, I want a husband, I want a bunch of kids. I was like, absolutely not. Like I would tell people, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna get married when I am established in my career. So maybe like mid to late 20s,
early 30s.
Yeah, like, have kids early 30s. I mean, like, that was kind of far from my mind. Well, obviously, I met Liam at 17, fell instantly in love with him, married him at 19. And, like, yeah, we would have conversation about children. And, he was very open to the idea of, like, oh, yeah, like, I want kids.
But you didn't want to be a
And
mom right away.
I did not. I was like, whoa, 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 hold your horses for a second. Like,
Yeah.
I'm being on birth control. And, we're not going to have kids right now. Like,
Wow.
please, no. Like,
Wow.
I wasn't against having children, but I was like, just so focused, sadly, too much on myself. And once again, trying to control this aspect of my life.
Wow.
And I'm just like, no, we're going to take birth control. I'm going to finish college and I'm going to start my career. And then maybe we can think about kids. So we'll leave it at that. A couple of years passed.
I love you. Just like, this is what we're doing.
And once again,
Liam's like, just patience. Like,
yes, no, once again, my sweet Liam is just being so patient and loving, just being like, okay. Like he just knew I would turn around. He just knew it. And so so it was not this past fall, but the fall before that. It was my two sister-in-laws. We started reading a book called In the Flow. And it was talking about, just basically like female bodies and just like the cycle it goes through like each month, like the different phases.
the science and the terms and the feelings. And I love that book.
It was a great book, and like we started reading it, and it started talking about like the cycles, and it was saying, if you're on birth control, you're not really gonna go through those cycles, obviously. And at first I'm like, so who cares? Like, I'm doing great. I'm healthy.
I feel fine.
Yeah, I feel fine. Birth control is working. Like, I'm just one of those lucky ladies that it works, And we started reading the book, and it, just reading about the effects that birth control, has on a woman's body, and just not having a natural cycle.
Right.
And it's amazing how God works, because I felt like he had rightly, stumbled upon this book, which then inspired me to read it. And I'm reading about this, and of course my mind gets thinking, I'm like, well, I want to be healthy. I want my body to function properly. So I'm like, maybe I should get off birth control. And I mentioned it to them, and I was like, I don't know, kind of thinking about it, but I don't know, this is kind of scary. I do not want kids. Because that was my thing. I was like, I do not want a baby. Like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Because in your mind, like, no birth control means kids.
Yeah. I'm like, because
so
I know
scary.
some people do like this natural cycle stuff, and I'm like, absolutely not.
I don't want to figure that out.
No,
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't work. So I was like, no. And it wasn't until like literally last year in April, Liam and I talked about it, and I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna get off birth control. And he's like, oh, like we're gonna start having kids. And I was like, well, wait, hold on a second, like, I'm like, let's just wait a little bit. I'm like, let's make sure my body, functions properly, because I'm like, I've been on birth control now
For a long time.
I think about like 5 years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we need to make sure my body's like
Gets
working
back on
properly.
track.
Yeah, like working properly.
Yeah.
So I waited, and last year too, I did a Spartan race, and I was like, I have to wait till after that because I can't let my body be screwing me up.
Oh my
Gotta be on
gosh.
my top game.
Right.
So finished the Spartan race, went on birth control, and yeah, we did like protective measures for like a couple months because I'm like, we gotta make sure I'm good. And I was still pretty hesitant about the kid thing.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of people were telling us, they're like, well, it can take like, I don't know if this is like for you or for you guys, but I mean, like I felt like growing up, and even up till then, everyone was saying like, oh, it's gonna take you like a year, like of trying till you can like have a kid.
I have heard
like,
that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, a year. So we were thinking about it. We're like, next year would be a good time to have a kid. So next year, it'll probably happen. And so silly us, thinking like, yeah, it's definitely gonna take a year. 2 months in, obviously I'm late, and I'm like, this is a little weird. I'm like, I'm never late. Like I'm typically like on the day, almost like on the hour, like spot on. So I'm like, this can't be it. I was like, I don't know about this. Tell Liam about it, and take a pregnancy test, and boom, pregnant. And like I remember looking at it and just being like, what did we do? like I was excited, but I was also like, oh my goodness, I got pregnant this fast? Like, there's no way. And like show Liam it, and he's like he's also excited. Like, yeah, we were both excited. We were both
but also not expecting
like,
it.
Yeah, we weren't expecting it, and we were like, do we start too soon? Like, should we have waited a little bit longer? Because like reality hit us, and we're like, oh my goodness, our lives are completely about to change. I mean, like everyday life, like our sleep, I mean, like our routine, I mean, we love working out.
Yeah, your job.
Jobs. Oh my goodness, I remember like I was like looking out the window and literally just low-key like bawling.
I'm sure.
Because I was like, they're gonna take my car away, and like I'm not gonna be able to work the road, and like
Oh my gosh.
like
Yeah.
boo-hooing on me here.
Yeah.
And of course, the pregnancy, sickness like starts to roll in. Yeah, so it just like hits us. We're like, oh my goodness, like life is about to change. And having to like get to that point was like so hard, like to trust God in, because I'm just like, okay, like me being off the birth control pill was like such like a huge, such a huge step, such a huge moment. Like, okay, God, I'm trusting you,
surrendering that.
Yeah, I'm like, please don't let me get pregnant right away, but it's your will, I guess, let it happen, kind of. But it was just so hard for me to finally just being like, okay, I'm letting go, and then not to use no protection at all. I'm like, okay, I'm letting it go again. Here we go, like here for the ride. So yeah, so I schedule, an 8-week appointment. I guess that's like, not like a mandatory thing, but just kind of like the common thing, like they bring you in at 8 weeks. And it was the day that we were going to go on that backpacking trip. And, we're like, 8 weeks is kind of early to tell people, but we're like, this is going to be such an exciting time. Like, we just get to show them like the ultrasound pictures.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we'll just go ahead and tell them because it was you guys, and like, Brightly, Thomas, Chloe, and Silas. And I'm like, this is going to be great. Like,
Yeah.
because also too, I was like, feeling sick.
Yeah.
More tired. And I'm like, we're about to go
You're
on a
feeling
backpacking
pregnant.
trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, they're going to know something's up, so we might as well just tell them. So we go to that 8-week appointment thinking I was 8 weeks. I was, feeling fine in the sense that like, I didn't feel like anything was wrong. Like, I had the typical like morning sickness. Everything despised me, like food related. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely pregnant. Walk into the ultrasound. She's doing her thing. And as soon as I see her baby, I'm just like, something's wrong. I'm like, that's not an 8-week baby. Like, because, I looked up ultrasound pictures, and I'm like, that's not 8 weeks. That's just like a little blob there. I'm like, and she couldn't detect a heartbeat. And she started asking me, she was like, have you been experiencing like any bleeding, cramping? And I'm like, no, like I've been like having like low-key cramping, but nothing like it like lasts like for a couple minutes, but like it wouldn't like escalate or anything. Like I've been feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. Well, she's like, well, maybe we just have like your ovulation date wrong. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I just feel like something's wrong
Yeah,
here.
you just felt something off.
Yeah. And so we meet with our doctor in a little bit, and she's like, well, she's like, we couldn't detect a heartbeat. And she's like, you're saying you're 8 weeks, but your baby is only measuring 6 weeks. So she's like, we need you to come back in 1 week to see if there's like change or if there's not any change. And she's like, if there's not any change, we'll discuss options then. And she then discussed like the whole concept of like a miscarriage, because she once again asked me, she's like, are you experiencing like any bleeding whatsoever or any cramping? And I was like, no, like I'm feeling pretty good, like, you know, besides like freaking morning sickness, but like, yeah, I'm feeling good. And so we were asking her like what are the chances here? And she's like, it's literally 50-50. She's like, it's kind of too early to detect a heartbeat sometimes at this stage. So she's like, come back next week and we'll see what happens. And, you know, we left so like in shock, and, you know, I'm like bawling,
not knowing what to do,
because I'm like, this is like literally my worst fear ever.
Worst fear. You got pregnant. You didn't want to get pregnant.
Well, yeah, pregnant. Here I am. Like, I didn't want to get pregnant in the first place. And then, like, you know, I'm like giving myself up to God here. And I'm like,
why?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? And yeah, we were heading to you guys, and I'm just like, I do not think I want to go on this backpacking trip. Like, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to bring down the mood. And I'm just like, I really don't want to do this. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I just felt like God was just telling me, like, no, you need to go on this backpacking trip. And I think the big thing, there was a couple of reasons why I think
he wanted me to,
was, well, because, like, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I was always, you know, I'm the reliable one. I don't show a lot of emotions. And so I was like, I don't want people to see me like crying my eyes out, you know, about this. And like, yeah, I was just like, I'm fine. Like, you know, I'm a lone wolf. Like, you know, I can do it. Like, you know, I'm going to figure this out. I'll go home and just crawl into bed and do like my own thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I just felt God was just like, can you just like wake up a second and just like go to this community that I gave you?
Wow.
And I was like, okay, fine, you're right. I will. And, you know, and I'm so glad that I did, because you guys were so amazing during that trip. Like, just to be able to be like, I remember just like walking in and just like basically just bawling, because I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, my baby might be okay, my baby might not be. And to be able to be so vulnerable with you guys was just like so like relieving and like amazing. And just you know, you guys praying over us and stuff, and like, yeah, I'm getting like emotional like thinking about it, because it was just such like
a change.
It was such a change, and I felt like, you know, God knew that like I needed that, and to experience that with you guys was, you know, it's just so relieving and just so heartwarming, honestly.
Such a change of pace from like how you grew up and what you experienced.
Yeah, like I didn't have to be alone or anything, and God,
you didn't have to do it on your own.
Gave me that, you know. So
I love you.
Love you too, man. But you know, so we went on the trip, which was awesome. I think it also just distracted me too.
Yeah.
From everything. And yeah, sadly we, you know, did go back a week later, and our little sweet baby, you know, looked the same, no heartbeat, still measuring 6 weeks. So they're like, all right, let's discuss your options. They're like, you can either, they were like, this is a miscarriage, your body for some kind of reason
didn't detect it.
Yeah, it just didn't detect it, which also made me mad, because I'm like, well, I'm a healthy person, so why is my body like not detecting it?
Yeah.
And I was like, once again, God, like, what the heck? I'm like, here I am, like, I gave my body to you to be a vessel for this little baby, and
what the heck?
Yeah, like, what the heck? Like, now you're not giving it to me? Like, what are you doing?
Wow.
So, and we were in the car waiting to talk to the doctor about our options, and I like looked at Liam, like, see, we're just God's puppets and everything, and I'm like, like,
sure
why am I
felt
even
that
here?
way. Yeah.
Like, and I regretted saying that instantly, because I'm like, there's a reason why God put me through this. Like, you know, there's always a reason, and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. But it was just such like an upsetting time.
And a lot of emotion.
Yeah, and so, you know, we talked to the doctor, who I'm so grateful for. Everyone was so amazing there. I mean, the procedure that I did, I ended up going with the DNC procedure, just because I'm just like, because they said like you could keep going naturally, like try to go naturally, you're gonna take pills, and both of those options, I'm just like, well, technically the natural process isn't working.
Yeah.
We're like 3 weeks past, so where my baby stopped growing basically. So I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not working. And then sometimes they're saying like the pills sometimes wouldn't even like,
Okay. Wow.
you know,
Get it
move,
all
yeah,
out.
get it all out and stuff. So you know, let's just put me to sleep so I don't have to feel anything and I could just, yeah.
Yeah.
Not, I wasn't trying to take the easy way out, but I'm like, I'm already like emotionally
Right.
like so drained.
Stretched and drained.
Yeah, and I'm like now, and then like for you to ask me to go like through it physically, because like when you take the pills, it's like just
Bleeding.
super. Yeah, I mean it's super bad. I heard it's like horrendous. So
Yeah.
I'm just like I think I'm good, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
so went
And
with
that
that.
option gave you the most peace just to like
It
move
did. I
forward.
felt the most peace, and like I said, everyone there, I had an amazing nurse who was like
That's great.
so sweet and everything. Like she was there even like when I woke up. It was just like, would you like some orange juice? I mean, she was just so sweet,
Oh.
just so sweet. And like yeah, you know, it was so hard because I think, you know, it was a time for me where I could be vulnerable,
Mhm.
and I think God wanted me to be that, you know,
Feel
with
that
you all,
vulnerability.
yeah, with you all, and just with other people, because once again, you know, I'm more of a lone wolf. I'm more, you know, don't really like to express emotions because I'm like, no, I'm perfect and reliable, and I have to, you know,
Right.
be the one that people can lean on. You know, I can't lean on others; they need to lean on me. And to be able just to lean on others
Mm.
was just yeah, such a relief, and
Wow.
just something that I think I needed to experience, and just to also just lean on God and just being like, okay, this happened. I don't know why, but
I need your help.
yeah, I need your help. I need you now, please.
Mhm.
And yeah, just to feel his love, and just, I think I knew, I was like, okay, we're going to have kids eventually.
Mm.
And what the timeline looks like, we don't know,
Yeah.
but we'll just see what happens.
Wow.
And I think, you know, after, you know, we lost our baby, I think I at that moment knew, I was like, okay, I really want to be a mom. Because, you know,
Wow.
beforehand I was like, you know, still pretty hesitant about it. But we even wrote letters to our baby.
Mm.
And in that letter, I said, because of you, I want motherhood so much more than ever now.
Oh.
Because I didn't have you, and now I want it. I want it now. I want it. And I told Liam that because at first I was like, I don't know if I want to keep trying. Like, I don't know. Like, I was just so sad.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? Like, I just felt like this pull from God. Like, no, like, how about you just try again? And sure enough, first try, like, here's this little guy. Here's this little guy. And,
Wow.
you know, when I was so happy when I once again saw like, oh, you're pregnant. But then there was this like
Fear.
oh my goodness, like fear, like, is this gonna happen again? Is it not? And having to walk through this process and just lean on
Trusting.
God. Yes, it's been a process. And like
Yeah.
I feel like each appointment I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do better. I'm not gonna be scared or worried. Then I'm like, God, no. And once again,
Wow.
I've been able to be vulnerable with people because I've, you know, talked about in girl group, like, hey, I am so scared right now. I'm going to walk into this appointment and I'm not going to hear a heartbeat. And just being able to be vulnerable and just be emotional, yeah, has just been
Wow.
so good.
Well, yeah, my only question was like, do you feel like a reason, and maybe you don't know right now, but a reason that God brought you through that was to open your heart to vulnerability and leaning on people and asking for support? I mean, that's such a heart-wrenching, such a heart-wrenching thing to go through, to
Yeah.
lose that. And do you feel like the Lord has used that to really open up that side of yourself?
I think he definitely has. And I feel a difference too when I think about, you know, community and just vulnerability in general. Because I think before, like, I was like vulnerable sometimes, but I feel like after this point, especially like around people, I'm just like, no, this happened. This is how I felt. And like, yeah, I think God definitely used that, and just use that too to just rely more on him, and also just to accept like motherhood, you know, because I was so against it for so long. And I think yeah, I think in some ways I kind of had a bad picture of motherhood, you know, with my mom,
Yeah.
but just seeing, yeah,
How God has redeemed
yeah,
that
yeah,
in your
no,
life.
yeah,
Totally.
so
That's amazing. Praise
yeah,
God. I mean, I can totally relate in the way where God just uses those moments, and I mean you guys too, just relating those what the heck, like why would you do this moments, and you
yeah,
look back and you're like, man, I am a stronger person because of this. You have unlocked this like level of myself I didn't know I could get to or existed because of this hard thing.
yeah,
And on the other side of it, just being grateful for it.
yeah,
And but that also takes a leap of faith to rely on God
yeah,
to do that work in you, because it's so easy to just be like, okay, God took this away from me, I'm just going to be mad, I'm going to be
right,
resentful.
yeah. It definitely crossed my mind because, yeah, at first I was like, I'm not going to try. Like, that was terrible. Don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, this is a blessing, you know, that God wants to give to me. So I want to go for it. And I want a little one.
That is so
So,
inspiring.
yeah.
That is so inspiring. Do you guys have any?
It's a
Final
beautiful
thoughts?
story.
Yeah,
Thank
it is.
you.
Yeah,
It really is.
that is a
Thank you
beautiful
so
story.
much for sharing.
No,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Thank you.
We appreciate you being vulnerable with us.
Yeah.
It, like makes, I mean, it's so inspiring, and definitely every time I hear that, just your thoughts on those things, it's just so, it's so humbling and makes me think like, okay, what parts of my life can I just continue to surrender?
Yeah. And it's all, and like I said, yeah, it's all God, and it's amazing to see out just once again, like the way He has worked in my life, and like, you know, He works on it little by little. You know, He, you know, like with this whole pregnancy, it's just like it was like a stepping stone, you know, of just like me just giving each piece to Him and stuff, and you know, He's just been so loving and gracious, and yeah, no, it's been amazing.
Wow. Well, thanks you for coming on here and just being honest and transparent about your life and your journey with God.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. I love you.
Love you too.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Amalia, for being so just amazing.
Thank you.
All the time. I don't know what else
No.
to say. You're just so awesome.
Thank you for letting me on here.
Yeah, of
It's
course. And thank you guys for listening, and we hope you come back for more. Bye.